New Who has a villain problem when it comes to finales. Now, whether that be villains becoming repetitive with repeated appearances from the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, or the repeated pairing of the Master and the Cybermen, which was never the greatest pairing in the first place, so I don't know why it needs to be repeated 3 times, or when the show does try to switch up, with Moffat's season 6 and 7 and Chibnall's season 11 and 13 being examples. Their big bads end up falling flat, or leaving much to be desired. Now that we're entering a new era of Who, and Russell T Davies being the biggest offender of the repeated villain trope, I think it's time to freshen things up a bit. With a villain that's ruthless, shares a bit of history with the Doctor, and can terrify audiences young and old once again. It is time for the Trickster. Now, whilst I think the Trickster is dangerous enough to take that final villain role, I also see him as adaptable to a mid-season 2-parter or one-off full series, but we'll get to that in a second. The Trickster was a villain that would appear in the spin show, The Sarah Jane Adventures. There would be references to him in Torchwood, and a member of the Trickster's brigade would lead to events of Turn Left in the main show. In Sarah Jane Adventures, the Trickster would normally turn up to a character before their death and offer them a deal, seeking their agreement. Now, this could interfere with time as seen in Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane and The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith, or a binding contract giving the Trickster power, as seen in The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. Now, whilst good will always triumph over evil in these TV shows, you would always feel the lasting impact from a Trickster episode. In Sarah Jane's first encounter, her childhood best friend, Andrea, was forced to accept her demise as a child to save the world, with Maria not given much of a fuck.
I'm sorry, Andrea, but you were meant to die.
We see how Andrea affected Sarah Jane and how she learned to cherish life, making her the person she is today. In The Temptation of Sarah Jane, we find Sarah Jane being forced to send her parents off to their deaths in order to save the future from falling into the hands of the Trickster. He is defeated, but the result doesn't feel like a victory at all. It all feels bittersweet. In our last encounter with the Trickster, even the Doctor gets involved, when Sarah believes she has found her dream man, only again to let him go as he is just another pawn of the Trickster. Now, I also think it's interesting to note that before the unfortunate passing of Elizabeth Sladen, Season 5 would have revealed Sarah Jane's newly adopted daughter, Skye, to in fact be a child of the Trickster, using Skye against Sarah Jane to take over the world. And I mean, Jesus, look at that thing. That is just pure nightmare fuel, bro. What all these stories have in common is there's no grand victory. The Trickster always goes the emotional angle, using those closest to Sarah Jane to trap her just where he wants her. Now just imagine what he could do to the Doctor. The Trickster is the perfect big bad for the Doctor to face off against. You can have your end of the world scenarios, the spectacle to pull the audience in, just like the Daleks, Cybermen, or the Master. The Trickster is a powerful foe that can cause real chaos for the universe. Exploit that. The Doctor faces a foe more power and influence, a foe that can tamper with their past, or you can go quieter, more personal.
Tell me how! The heart, Osborne. First, we attack his heart.
Or hearts in this case. I also believe when looking at the format of the season, the Trickster's Brigade works for an overarching story if you're trying to save the Trickster for the final showdown. Davies normally likes having the eventual big bad to be this thing in the background that occasionally gets mentioned. So use the Brigade in that sense, have them slightly change in history, breaking down time until the Trickster can be released. Now let's talk specifics. Just how could the Trickster be utilised? In a companion sense, it could showcase to them the dangers of time travel. Have a companion with a deep regret. They would want to change more than anything. They bring this to the Doctor, who shuts it down, highlighting the dangers. Maybe go through the season, and the Doctor-companion relationship isn't doing so well, with anger building up within the companion. That's when the Trickster strikes, offering them a deal to correct their wrongs. Maybe the companion is hesitant, wanted to be loyal to the Doctor, until the Trickster showcases how many times the Doctor has broken the rules, maybe twisting past events to convince them. The companion agrees and responding to what appears to be a utopia. Everything seems right in the world, but there's also this feeling of impending doom, the Trickster growing in power. This will conclude with the companion ending their agreement but at least being able to make peace with her past. I think a story in that vein could give some insight into a companion, whilst truly showing them the dangers of time. For a greater effect, you could just have the Trickster causing chaos throughout time, transforming it to become their own big playground. The Doctor has nowhere to go, with the whole of time and space in the Trickster's image and control. Make it a true David vs. Goliath. All in all, I think it's time to strive for something greater in Doctor Who finales. The Trickster plays with emotions and time itself. They offer something different. What do the other usual suspects now offer? The Daleks can barely hit a target, the Cybermen get new looks, and the Doctor-Master dynamic has recently been overused, with it lacking in fresh material. Russell's first era introduced the Trickster, and his second one should be the one to bring him back in full force. Thanks for listening to this video on why the Trickster should return to Doctor Who and why he should play such a major role. If you like this video, share it, click the like button, and we'll see you next time. Peace.